Boy, I've heard of beer bellies, but that may that may take the cake. Though he's probably not just taking the cake, but the table as well, right? So this is going to be the last one of the cinematic cutscenes that they have for the Eye of the Vortex campaign. This is the most recent one they added, where they added two lords for this one. One of which was this guy right over here, who is basically the opposition of this guy right here. This is Grom the Paunch, the Goblin King, or as he calls it just now, the biggest, baddest gobbo ever. Now the greenskins in Warhammer Fantasy are not quite like, not exactly like the orcs from 40k, but at times they feel very, very close, especially in terms of how they play. After all, one of their main things, of course, is that they have a wah. They call upon additional orc and goblins. By the way, this was a big deal because they actually reworked how the faction works in this game. The Greenskins have basically played the same way since the first Warhammer, Total War Warhammer game. But this DLC changed how they work, especially the wah gameplay mechanic. It actually, works differently now. They also got some different roster changes as well to some of their units, even though many of the units are still there, but they actually got some extra units as well, like pump wagons, as well as trolls, extra kinds of trolls. He also has a different unique thing, which, as you can see here, let me go back to this. The underway is still there, and then he has access to Grom's Cauldron, where he's going to be able to eat different kinds of foods to give him different kinds of buffs. He prefers temperate islands. He has hardly terrible diplomatic relations with the High Elves. Has a chance to contain a pump wagon, and he has global recruitment duration -1 turn for goblin units. After all, he's the Goblin King. He gets extra leadership when fighting against elves. He has physical resistance for goblin units. Upkeep reduced in half for chariot and pump wagon units. He has passive ability regeneration and an army ability called Grom's Wah. So, yeah. Check this out.
The waystones that guard all elven souls grow faint. Althwan is weak, still reeling from a ferocious greenskin assault. It barely survived. The grim warden of Tor Ivres has not rested since driving back the green invasion. Prince Eltharion must be prepared. There will come a day when the Goblin King returns. It is only a matter of time. For in the desolate Southlands, a war of unimaginable power brews. War boss Grom, most feared and most colossal of all goblins, has long craved a second chance to annihilate the Asa. That time is now. Althwan will drown beneath a green tide. There must come the Wa to end all wars. But Grom's horde will meet a wall of unstoppable Asur might. Eltharion will defend his homeland unto his dying breath. This is his vow. The Grim Prince and the Goblin King. Two souls sworn to vengeance upon each other.
Years have passed since Grom's first siege of Tor Yevris. His 11th hour defeat at Eltharion's hands did little to dull his massive appetite for conquest, or culinary delights for that matter, but did put quite a dent in his previously bloated reputation. Intent on building up his Wah once more, he has raided his way south out of Badlands in the hope of swelling his horde to a size befitting of a Goblin King. At the center of the Great Ocean, unfinished business awaits.
The Paunch is back! Had a bit of time off, but enough rest and recuperation. Now, Grom is ready for some more fighting, looting, and most importantly, eating. Everyone thought I was done for after the punch up with the pointy heads. So now, I gotta remind all the boys who's boss. First, I's gonna smash these runty spider goblins, beat them all into submission. Next, we'll crump through the dead things in the desert, see if we can pick up a few stragglers from the Badlands on the way. Then, we're good to war! But the big prize is on the Pointy Heads Island across the sea. Oh, I once had me a good rampage up there, with the crazy shaman old Blacktooth egging me on. He said we had to destroy everything, as if I wasn't gonna. And then we ended up at the gates of that shiny old city. Yeah, the loot was good, but the fighting was better. We had us a right good scrap. Then Blacktooth went and lost his head, and all the boys packed it in the gates. That grim old pointy head thinks he's won, but it's time to show him Grom is still the best.
Oh my goodness. There are times, you know how I talked about how I enjoyed role-playing when I played the Skaven? I basically like to do the same thing when I play as, I know that in this they're referred to as the Greenskins, but come on, how could I not want to call them as the Orcs? Wah! But yeah, they actually change how this works. A Wah is now an unstoppable force that can be unleashed once your faction gains sufficient reputation. Yes, this is now how Wahs work. Through winning battles and raising settlements. Once a call to Wah is targeted against an enemy, additional mobs will flock to your armies for a period of time as your Lord's Wah battle abilities are temporarily boosted, raising the enemy's capital within the allotted time or occupying it when the Wah ends. Will grant a trophy and rewards in addition to building momentum towards the next call to Wah. They also collect scrap. The underway basically still works the same.
First things first, I got to let those arachnos gits know the Goblin King's here. No better way than to take the stragglers' strongholds. If they've got a problem with it, I'll just have to make giblets out of them.
We'll have to make some more red paint around here. I just love it. The Orcs are just so great. Even in 40k, I'm like a big fan of the Orcs. Find the pointy heads, give them a proper fight. Wah! Orcs and goblins are a bane to civilization, raiding ceaselessly and carrying war and barbarism to every corner of the world. Collectively known as greenskins, time and again they amass without warning, their direction and intent utterly fickle and unpredictable. Their hodgepodge armies are typically a whole slew of violent-minded creatures, monsters and critters dominated by a single orc or goblin. Like, for example, in the first game it was Grimgor. For one of the latter to lead due to being the biggest is unheard of, which makes the story of the tribe known as Broken Axe notable due to the remarkable rise and feats of its goblin war boss, Grom the Paunch. Grom was once a young boss of the Broken Axe Goblins, a little-known backwards mob from dismal surroundings. He began his rise to fame after consuming a large quantity of raw troll meat during a wager. By all rights, the regenerating flesh should have killed him. But he had always been a bigger eater, and after days of chronic indigestion and profuse flatulence, Grom found that he was able to digest the meat at roughly the same rate at which it grew back. so long as he kept eating excessively. A grossly fat and even stronger Grom heroically emerged, his new expansive proportions rivaling that of even the biggest orcs. Using his newfound bulk, he worked his way to the top of the Broken Axe tribe before conquering many other orc and goblin mobs. Grom's trail of destruction continued through the realms of dwarves and men, his horde swelling to unfathomable numbers, as countless greenskins flocked for a share of his battle glory. Following a prophecy from his shaman old Blacktooth, Grom took his massive host to sea, fortuitously landing on a mysterious shingle beach writhed in mist. This was Othwan, along the bleak coast of Yevresi. Forgive me. The maniacal shaman claimed the High Elves' realm was a land that Gork and Mork wanted conquered, and Grom obliged. The hopelessly outnumbered High Elves could do little to stop his rampage inland. Eventually, he reached a city to conquer worthy of his reputation. A beautiful metropolis that rivals any ever built. Tor Yevresi. Grom's overwhelming wah flooded in, cackling as the flames went higher and pausing to rip the arms off statues, torment injured elves, and barbarically smash any symbols of civilization they could find. Then, just as the city was on the verge of complete destruction, down from the skies upon a mighty griffin hurled Eltharion, an elven captain of renown. Fighting with vengeance in his eyes, he eventually beheaded Blacktooth with a single sword stroke. With the death of Broken Axe's chief sorcerer and the arrival of Eltharion's battle-hardened reinforcements, Broken Axe's horde started to rout as a storm raged overhead. Grom attempted to rally his shaken troops in vain, until he too finally fled. With the ignominy of defeat, ignominy, we'll go with that. A not-so-distant memory, the proclaimed King of the Goblins hungers still, both for anything that he can get in his mouth and the glories of conquest. In time, Grom's Wah shall amass once again and return to claim the biggest prize. So yeah. Greenskins are not above pilfering used weapons and other junk from the battlefield, and do so indiscriminately. Any scrap that you gain in the aftermath of your warmongering can be put towards improving the tribe's war capabilities, such as unit equipment upgrades and technologies. So yeah, we've got our reputation here. We've got the bottom feeder. Not even the local mobs know much of your exploits. Fight battles and raise settlements to increase your reputation. Let the world know the tribe is keen for a fight. So you start down there, and then you make your way up here to Straggler, Mobster, and then Warmonger. And then a call to War. Yep.
Mountains is where gobos belong.
So now this is where we then see a unique mechanic for Grom, the Warden in the Mist. It's not currently occupied. So yeah, we would have to go and actually occupy the settlement up there. But this is the unique thing for Grom. The Cauldron, where we can be able to get ingredients from different fights, and also be able to have recipes and be able to collect various different pieces like lion meat, troll meat, lizard legs, boar meat, gobbo legs, stuntiale, monster goo, ectoplasm, and so on and so forth. Dragon tail, goldfish, green spores, tentacles. Otherwise, Grom is hungry. He needs to sample some recipes to begin expanding his portly waistline. Plus 5% hit points. But, of course, you can see the different benefits down there at the bottom of the screen for each of the different ingredients. And so then you can mix and match to create different recipes to give him a combination of different kinds of buffs and such. You can also be able to go here. This is a recipe book that lets you be able to actually store and find different kinds of recipes, which there are other ways to be able to acquire such things. So, yeah. It's been an interesting run so far. I'm like 30 or so turns into doing a run as Grom. Very interesting. And of course, I enjoy playing as the Greenskins, or I just prefer to call them the Orcs. Because, hey, they talk the same way, right? We gotta get the boys. Hey, boss. Let's go get some of those gits and get some more red paint in here. You know? It's just fun role-playing. So anyways, that is all the cutscenes for the Vortex campaign in Total War Warhammer 2. There's no cutscenes. It's a shame they don't let you see the cutscenes from the first Warhammer game if you were to play as those main factions from that game. But that's why I made those videos, to show what those were like. So, I'll tell you what, guys. This could be one of the last videos I do in this regard, but as I mentioned earlier, if you want me to do, a playthrough of a campaign of one of these kinds of factions, feel more than free to let me know what you'd like to see me play. But I will once again remind you, it would not be like a normal legit run, because I'm not very good at these, which is why I've been getting mods to help me cheat through the game to make it an easier experience for me, because at times this game has handed my rear end on a silver platter, which I have no shame in admitting that I'm not very good at that. And so that's why I tried to get those, so I can be able to kind of experience what it's like going through the campaigns of these without having to be like, oh gosh, I can't do, spending lots of frustration trying to get through it, dealing with that stuff. I know it's kind of an issue with plenty of people. I'm just letting you guys know right up front. I'm just admitting it. I feel like some people just don't want to admit it. I'm just gonna let you guys know I admit it. So I also will let you know that I am very much looking forward to what they do with the third game. For those who don't know, this is not, they're planning on doing a third game. This is something they planned a long time ago. In the third game, we are supposedly going to be getting the rest of the Chaos factions in Warhammer. And then, if you thought Mortal Empires was cool with how big it was, with how many factions and such, the idea is that they're going to combine all three games. If you thought the Mortal Empires campaign was a big campaign, a big map, just wait till the third game comes out and they combine everything from all three games. I'm also very interested in seeing what the campaign is going to be like in terms of the story for the factions we play in the main story campaign in the third game, especially if we're going to be focusing on the Chaos factions. That will be very interesting. So until then, I will see you guys next time.